let's take a look at COVID-19 numbers according to the Ghana Health Service. What will bring you that? But let's take a look abroad. We're going to Germany now, weekly crossover. It's like many other countries, the country is still crumbling to find a way out of the pandemic. Public life in Europe's largest economy has now been mostly shut down since November of last year, without managing to significantly bring down infection rates. Now, though, the country is hoping to take a much-needed step ahead in the fight against COVID-19. For more on this, let's bring in DW's Nicole Frolish, who's joining us from Berlin. Nicole, vaccination efforts in the EU have become somewhat of a sore subject. Germany has now entered the second phase of the inoculation drive. Will this help the speed of vaccinations to pick up?
Well, that is the plan and certainly the hope. As part of the second phase, general practitioners will be allowed to administer shots to eligible citizens. That sounds great, and it is a step many have been pushing for a long time, but there are caveats, and those are not to be ignored. For the time being, only 35,000 practices in Germany will be authorized to administer shots, and even though doctors say they are ready to hit the ground running, for starters, they'll only receive an average of 27, and it is a step many have been pushing for a long time, but there are caveats, and those are not to be ignored. For the time being, only 35,000 practices in Germany will be authorized to administer shots, and even though doctors say they are ready to hit the ground running, for starters, they'll only receive an average of 27 doses per week. That number will increase with time, but this still might not turn out to be the boost Germany's vaccination drive needs. The group of eligible citizens is still far too small to really curb infections, and the country doesn't have enough doses. That is why experts are now demanding another additional step be taken. They want to space first and booster shots further apart and use doses that were initially intended for one same person on two people. They believe that would provide basic protection for a segment of the population large enough to effectively push back against the virus and take an important load off the country's health system.
Well, Germany has also been in lockdown for over 150 days now. How much longer will this go on?
Well, that's an excellent question, and one many people here in Germany would like to know the answer to. There might not be a topic more hotly debated in the country at this point than the never-ending shutdown. Despite rising case numbers, some state leaders are currently trying their hand at an easing of restrictions. The western state of Saarland, for example, started a pilot project on Tuesday, reopening theaters, gyms, and outdoor restaurants for people with negative test results. Others continue to push for a complete lockdown until infection rates are suppressed. The latest politician to propose that was Armin Laschet. He's the head of Angela Merkel's CDU and the premier of Germany's most populous state. He came up with what he calls a bridge lockdown, a new term for a concept that has long been on the table. He made headlines last week after the chancellor publicly called him out on not following rules that all state leaders, him included, had agreed on. He then struggled to save face and has, over the Easter holiday, seemingly fallen in line. That back and forth is quite descriptive of the situation in the entire country. Measures are fought over, announced, never imposed, or apologetically retracted. And if that sounds confusing, well, you're not alone. 63% of Germans say they are disoriented by the current rules, and close to 50% would like to see tighter measures rather than an easing of restrictions at this point.
Yeah, very interesting point there. Finally, Nicole, in Germany, the military has been helping out in the fight against the pandemic. Now, the German army has launched a controversial new volunteer scheme for the domestic engagements. Give us more information on that.
The German defense minister launched the one-year Fight and Help program under the slogan, Your Year for Germany, which, according to her, is a flexible way of serving one's country. It's a combination of traditional basic military instruction followed by volunteer-specific training, and then at some point of the next 6 years, the volunteer will be called upon to serve for 5 months. Volunteers would only be deployed domestically and preferably close to their place of residence in response to natural disasters, health emergency like the COVID pandemic, for example, or even protection of property. Now, while those who came up with it branded as an opportunity to experience military service without fearing a deployment abroad, many civil society organizations who heavily rely on volunteer work have called the defense ministry out for their move. They accuse the army of trying to solve their recruitment problems by luring young, impressionable adults with money that some defense analysts say would be better invested in the army's infrastructure, which is in dire need of modernization.
Nicole, thank you very much. Nicole Frolish there. She's correspondent with our partners, DW, and she joined us all the way from Berlin. Well, here's what it looks like for us here in Ghana. 63 new cases. That's amazingly dramatic. 63 new cases away from the 400 and the thousands that we were recording over the past couple of weeks. Now, our active cases 1,447 so far, but of course, the number of people who have died remains 752, with so far 91,009 cases confirmed. Mind you, Brazil is doing terribly with its handling of the pandemic. Details of that you can find also on myjoyonline.com. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll do some sport.